Hello and welcome to BQ Prime. You're watching IPO Adda, and my guest today is from Gandhar Oil Refinery. It's an IPO which is opening on November 22nd and closes on November 24th. Price between 160 to 169 a piece. It's a fresh issue of 302 crores and OFS of 198.7 crores. The company is valued at over 1650 crores at the upper end of the price band. And joining me is Ashlesh Parekh, who is a joint managing director of the company, and Indrajit Bhattacharya, who is the CFO of the company. Gentlemen, thank you very much for joining us on BQ Prime. Ashlesh, let me start with you. Give us a sense of what kind of business is this, because we know that it's you are into specialty oil, but to make it more simplified for our viewers, what kind of oil business is this, and how does it work?
Let me tell you, Gandhar Oil Refinery India Limited. We are the largest manufacturers of white oil in India and one of the top five players globally. White oil is a product which is primarily used by personal care, healthcare, and the performance oil segment. So we have leading Indian and multinational customers on our board, like companies like Unilever, Procter and Gamble, Marico, Imami, Bajaj, and so on. So the white oil as a product is primarily used, in brands like day-to-day brands like Vaseline, Bajaj Amla Kesh Tel, uh, Soframycin, which is manufactured by NQ Ethicals now, which was earlier owned by Sanofi. So this is where the application of our products are. And today, 55% of our total revenue is generated from the PHPO segment, which is the personal care, healthcare, and performance oil division.
Uh, I got a sense of what you do now. Give me a sense, how is this industry growing, and what rate is growing? Because you've been growing at a healthy rate of more than 40%, if I'm not wrong. How is it growing? And when you're raising 302 crores in fresh capital, where is it going to be used?
Yes. So we at Gandhar Oil, as I informed, the revenues of our company are divided into three broad categories, which is the personal care, healthcare, and the performance oil, contributing to 54% of our total revenue of the company. Then we have the industrial and automotive lubricants, which is contributing to around 24.5% of the revenues of the company. Then we have the process and the insulating oil, which contributes around 10% of the total revenues of the company. Having said that, the focus of our group is primarily on the personal care healthcare sector, wherein we have customers like Unilever and Procter and Gamble on our board. So we have shown a consistent track record of financial performance and also volume growth historically. Having said that, we would like to grow. We'd like to grow our company in terms of the PHPO segment, wherein we would like to focus. We'd like to focus our revenues, with our existing customers, grow with new customers, and expand across geographies. Today, for around 40% of our total revenues is generated from our overseas sales. Our overseas sales are to 100 plus countries, including US, Europe, South America, Africa, Australia, and Asian Pacific countries. Uh, the industry is growing at a rate of 6.5%, but historically, Gandhar has been growing at more than 15% year on year on the revenue basis. We have a consistent track record of financial performance. Our ROE and ROC ratio as of FY23 is 32% and 41% respectively.
Mr. Bhattacharya, you are into specialty oils. That should have given you higher margins, but your margins, EBITDA margins are around 7.98%. Why is that? And is there any scope to increase that margin? Because specialty oils and specialty chemicals get a higher margin traditionally.
Yeah, so basically, specialty oils have a slightly lower margin than the spec chem, but yes, that margin is going to grow as we grow our portfolio into PHPO, and that is what the focus of the company is. See, in the other segments, the EBITDA is lower, but as we keep growing our business into the PHPO and into the export part of it, our EBITDA margins are going to grow higher.
Give me a sense of what kind of EBITDA margins are there in the other two segments to get a perspective.
The other two segments, we mostly work on gross margins, and the gross margins for PHPO is around 12,500, and the other two segments is around 11,000 odd per KL.
Okay, like you said, lubricants and PIO basically.
Yes.
Okay, and when you increase this, so what is the kind of traditionally? See, you are one of the largest white oil makers in the country. So when you increase this, what kind of margin profile increment that will happen?
We are looking at increasing our PHPO gross margins to in excess of 13,000 rupees per KL. I mean, but that is a futuristic thing. But
I
that
get that.
is
That's
the
an
segment,
aspiration that you're talking about,
that's
basically.
an aspiration we have.
Okay.
But
But
just to add,
yeah.
just to add what Mr. Indrajit is telling, obviously, the focus of the company is to, expand on the personal care, healthcare, performance oil division, wherein, apart from the customers, with the leading customers that we have like Unilever and Procter and Gamble, we also still, aspire to add further new multinational customers which are still not on board with us. Apart from that, if you see, there are a huge entry barriers in this business. Now, getting accredited with a company like Unilever or a Procter and Gamble is a process of 4 to 5 years. The process is a time-taking process wherein there are various process involved in approving a supplier with customers like PNG or Unilever per se. The process involves getting the raw material approved, the plant audits, the facility audit. Once all that is done, they do a test marketing in terms of the product. They also do consumer testing now, which is one of the biggest outflow for these R&D companies. Now, for example, a Vaseline, produced by Unilever is a brand, so obviously they are very, very choosy in terms of and very skeptical in adding new suppliers, because whatever raw materials that we supply to these companies are directly being used by the brands. So, and the brand value for all these customers is billions of dollars. So, they're very choosy and very skeptical in adding new supplies, specifically for the raw materials that are going directly into the products. Having said that, the strategy at Gandhar is purely focusing on growth in terms of, acquiring new customers, growing with the existing customers, and expanding across geographies.
I get that. So how big are these contracts? Because if customers don't easily add suppliers, then you should be having long-term contracts with them. How big are these contracts, and what is the kind of pricing and volume mix that you go with?
Yeah, see, since with the scale of operations that we have in terms of the white oil and the revenue that we generate out of the phpo business, which is the personal care healthcare business, the contracts typically are 1 year contracts with few of our customers, wherein it's a price pass-through contracts, wherein the price of the raw material is a part of the contract formula. We have our gross margins, we have the overhead expenses which are pretty much fixed. And the essence of getting into a contract with all these customers is basically to ensure timely deliveries to these customers, because in no way a Vaseline or a Vicks Vapor Rub would not be available on shelf. So they want to ensure that supplier they select with are in a position, are at a particular strength to ensure they are able to commit timely deliveries, which is very crucial for the supply chain of these companies.
So the raw material, which is in this case petroleum products, which is there, it's easily passed through, and you get the compensation in case crude goes up or goes or comes down. So what is the lag effect there in that sense for you to get the pass through amount?
See, the key raw material for producing our PHPO products, basically the white oils and the petroleum jellies, are the base oil. Now, today we are importing the raw material base oil from suppliers out of Korea and GCC. So we have term contracts with the suppliers for base oil. It's a fixed volume contract, but the price of the raw material are based on ICIS pricing index, which is published weekly. So that helps in reduction of the commodity price fluctuation in terms of the raw material buying. So there are assured volume supplies, there is assured pricing which is fairly transparent, and similarly with few of our customers, this pricing are mirrored, which helps in reducing the commodity cost.
So that my next question was about suppliers only, because you take a lot of supplies from Korea and GCC. Why not from the Indian refineries?
See, we do have contracts with Indian refineries as well, with few of the Indian refineries, but the quality of the raw material, that is required specifically for the PHPO business, is primarily being
You're saying
imported.
Indian refineries don't have
No,
quality
we're not saying
products?
that. We're not saying that.
See, the assurance of supply chain, there are volume-based discounts. There is a credit in place, with the suppliers today. Leading GCC supplier is also giving us a open credit, for the supplies. So obviously, it helps the company in terms of effectively using its working capital and resources.
So you're saying that because of the credit and the financial metrics which are involved in sourcing, it's much more cheaper to buy from overseas as compared to domestic refineries.
It adds, absolutely. I mean, if you see it, it adds value to the supply chain that we have. We have a robust supply chain today. We have term contracts with these refineries today, which is helping our company in terms of assured supplies to our customers.
Mr. Bhattacharya, give me a assessment of the debt profile that you have and working capital requirement, because you're taking this amount 302 crores. A large chunk is going to working capital and some payment if I'm not wrong, to reduce borrowing?
So as of now, the company has hardly any term loans on the standalone level. On the subsidiary level, there is about 22 crores of equivalent of term loans, which is going to be repaid out of the IPO. We have around 250 odd crores of working capital borrowings at both the levels, and about another 50 odd crores of cash in hand. So the net debt is nothing beyond 160, 170 crores.
And that would be mostly current liabilities, right? In that
Working
sense.
capital.
Working capital, basically.
Working capital.
And you're raising 185 crores, which will go for working capital, that will take care of it.
That will take care of my working capital requirements, and it will also help bring down the purchase terms, as I will be able to pay upfront and probably negotiate better terms with my suppliers, and also reduce my interest cost in terms of working capital utilization from the banks.
What will be the effect, net effect of that?
Well, to add, I think
see, today, the most of our discounting or thing is an excess of 6.5%. So I'll be able to save out on that for the next 1 year.
But well, you can add the math in terms of reduction of interest cost, which will, directly indirectly help in
flow
increasing
down
the
to the profits, basically.
Yeah.
I get that part of it. So what is the kind of ideal cash flows from operations that, and I assume that it's going to be positive going forward. So what is the kind of cash flows that you have maybe in FY23 and the first half?
Around 65 odd crores of cash flow from operations.
And receivables, because I see that the receivables have been very high, 682 crores at the end of Q1, and it was standing at 561 crores at the end of FY23. So my thing was that what is the kind of payment plans, what is the kind of credit period that you work on, so because your receivables are very high?
The average credit that we give to our customers is around 90 days. This is a situation as on the end of a quarter, so it's not reflective of the entire year, but we expect the credit days to come, the receivable days to come down to around 55-60 days very shortly.
How are you going to do that? Because your supply agreements are in place, right?
No, I will tell you, there is a percentage of our supplies which goes for transformer oils, and there is delinquency in the part of transformer oil buyers right now, which we expect to come down very shortly and improve our debtor days.
But just to add what he's trying to tell, basically, see, the focus of Gandhar has always been on the PHPO, which is the personal care, healthcare, performance oil. The debtor days, for specifically this part of the segment is pretty lower. It is below 50, 52. It's around 50 to 55 days at the most. So, and the process in the insulating oil is contributing to only 9% of the total revenues of the company. So the average debtor days, of the company is coming down on 55, 58 days. So that is where we would want to focus on the PHPO segment, where we are the largest manufacturers of white oil, having market share of more than 25% in this business.
So, you've been talking about PHPO segment where your focus is going to be. Today it's more than 50-55% of your revenues coming from there. How do you see this revenue going up? And when Mr. Bhattacharya spoke about some delinquency in the transformer segment, is it in the domestic market, in Indian market, or overseas?
See, basically, what Mr. Bhattacharya was trying to inform you was basically on the transformer oil users. For example, there are electricity boards which are using this transformer oil as a feed for the transformers. Where there is but then the focus of the company has been on the PHPO segment, the personal care healthcare, where we have to grow, where we want to grow. Today, only 9% of the revenue is on the transformer oil segment, including the rubber processing. So the transformer oil segment would be not be more than 5 or 6% at the most. So the company would be focusing on the personal care healthcare sector, and we would like to grow with our existing customers by expanding across geographies with these customers. For example, a customer like Unilever, we would like we supply not only to Unilever India, we also supply to Unilever across the globe. Today we are not supplying to Unilever in US or Europe. So we would like to expand our footprints in our export business, by expanding and growing with these customers. Similarly, with PNG, we are only supplying to Indian facility right now. So you would like to, expand across geographies, grow with existing customers, and also at the same time acquire new customers.
The entire FMCG market is also moving towards contract manufacturing, right? Means a lot of the products get manufactured at the third party level and then done. So are you looking at that market as well?
See, with Unilever, for example, we have a contract wherein, there are a couple of contract manufacturers, which are already approved by Unilever. So, for example, when a contract is negotiated, Unilever, for example, informs, these are the contract manufacturers where they have association with. So the raw material has to be sourced by Unilever. The pricing is also fixed by Unilever. Only the deliveries are to that contract manufacturing company.
How do you see finally this segment growing? At what rate is growing?
See, if you look at the CRISIL report, we are expect the white oil as a product, where we are the market leaders today, is expected to grow at a double-digit CAGR of around 10% in from FY23 to FY27. So we are well poised, we are well poised, with the market leadership that we have with the white oils to have similar kind of growth even for our company.
Gentlemen, it was a pleasure talking to you today. Your IPO is opening on 22nd of November, closes on 24th, price between 160 to 169. Fresh issue of 302 crores and OFS of 198 crores. Thank you for watching IPO and BQ Prime.
Thank you.